Welcome to Doctoring the Truth, the podcast where we pull back the curtain on healthcare gone wrong. I'm your host, Jenna Tennell, and with me is my delightful co-host, Amanda House. We're two doctors of audiology here to bring you inside real-life cases where once trusted healthcare providers veered off the ethical path into criminal territory. Amanda! Hello!
Hello!
How you doing?
I'm doing good. It's Monday. How are you?
I'm great. You know what? This is episode 5.
5. Can you believe it?
I know. We graduated from a toddler to like a full-grown kindergartner at this point as a podcast.
I know. Look at us go. We're growing up so quick.
Oh, we're growing up so fast. We are growing up so fast. And you know what, listeners? We love you. We love your feedback. And I do want to say we're listening, okay? We are listening to your feedback. And I hope that everyone appreciates the fact that after we got some very good feedback about how long the intro was, yours truly figured out how to whittle it down. So we went from 2 minutes to 40 seconds. Please appreciate that your feedback matters. And we do try to make changes and make this better. And I think it's getting better every single episode. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. You guys listen to us. We listen to you. And of course, we can only get better every time, right?
Yeah.
Only if you keep giving us feedback, right, friends.
Yeah, so don't stop. Keep going. I love how many people are downloading and commenting and emailing. It's fantastic. So
it is really fun. I actually really look forward to this part of the week.
Yeah, same. So keep it coming, guys, because we want to stick around. So, let us make this what you want in your ears.
Thanks for letting us have a hobby.
So, speaking of what's going into people's ears, Amanda.
Oh, boy.
What can listeners expect today? Because I'm a little bit, I'm a little bit excited about what we're going to hear, even though it's terrible. But what you got?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, as mentioned in our brief little what to expect for next week, last week I told you that we were going to be exploring the unsettling case of the notorious doctor, Dr. Michael Swango.
Oh.
He is known as the Doctor of Death, not to be confused with Dr. Death, the case of Christopher Dunst, which we all widely know because I think it was on, Netflix?
I think it was on everything at one point or another.
Yeah,
but,
that was big.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, not him. There's another creep who was coined with a similar nickname. Trigger warnings for this case include mental health, suicide, alcohol abuse, and, of course, murder.
Moida, most foul.
Moida. So Dr. Swango, big bad man. He had a career in medicine that spanned over a decade. And, it's hard to imagine how someone that's so trusted with the lives of people could end up taking them. But Dr. Swango wasn't just treating his patients, he was poisoning them.
Oh, no.
And it wasn't just his patients, friends. It was also his colleagues.
What? Oh, okay. I'm going to have to buckle up for this one because I'm already mad. I can't believe this. I haven't heard of this case.
He's a monster. I hadn't either. All right, let's get into it.
All right.
Okay, so for some background, Michael Joseph Swango, born James Michael Swango, he was born on October 21st, 1954 in Tacoma, Washington, to Muriel and John Swango.
Okay, he's a
and
Libra.
Was raised in Quincy, Illinois.
He's a Libra born in the same place as me. Oh, but I'm not a
I was going to say,
doctor.
you know that because you're a Libra.
I'm not a killer doctor, though. Oh, I hate that we
No,
share
you're
that.
not. Can confirm. He was the middle of 3 children, and by all accounts, his mother, Muriel, tried to create a loving home for the kids, but this wasn't always easy. Echoing. Okay, I'm going to redo that sentence. Upon return to the States, John became depressed because of how he was treated and perceived by his fellow citizens, and eventually turned to alcohol. This created turmoil between him and Muriel, and they eventually divorced. With his father out of the picture, Michael was very dependent on Muriel, and some even described him as clingy. He constantly wanted to impress her and have her approval.
Oh.
So he excelled in school and became an accomplished musician, learning to play the piano and playing the clarinet in high school band. He made A's and B's throughout his high school career and was even the valedictorian of his graduating class of Quincy Catholic Boys High School in 1972.
Bless.
By all accounts, he was a very well-adjusted and really popular kid. There were no reports of problems with classmates or teachers, and he was even elected class president. He began working toward a career in healthcare, and his ambition to become a doctor soon took hold. To say the least, his path to becoming a doctor was atypical.
Can I just say, I also play the clarinet? Okay. Similarities between me and this guy. I'm not looking forward to how this plays out because I don't think he's the good one in this story. Oh.
I'm happy to report I think this is where the similarities end.
Okay.
Whew, whew. So, shortly after high school, he began attending Millikan University, which is a small liberal arts college in Decatur. I did that so many times, and I was like, I'm going to nail this. And then here we are, time to shy. Decatur. Illinois. That was only a 3-hour drive from his hometown. With his great grades and SAT score, he could have attended school just about anywhere, but he reportedly wanted to stay close to home. At Millikan, he had a 4.0 GPA, but things changed for him sometime around his sophomore year when he reportedly had a really messy breakup with his first serious girlfriend.
I mean, who doesn't have that messy relationship messing up with your grades? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, especially if it's your first breakup.
Yeah.
With your first serious person.
Yeah.
So, obviously, as we kind of mentioned, this had a big impact on him. His friends said that he started to act and dress differently. He had previously dressed really preppy with polo shirts and khaki pants and was reported to then wear military attire post-breakup.
Ooh, red flag.
Yeah, and this is also notable because it was a controversial decision for the time because of the negative reputation of the military being at the height of the Vietnam War, where many people were burning draft cards and attempting to stay as far away from anything military related as possible.
Yeah, especially in the university settings, they were doing that, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, needless to say, this gave him a lot of unwanted attention. He abruptly dropped out of college and, joined the Marine Corps. He excelled in the military, earning the special rank of a sharpshooter. He received a number of medals and distinctions, including the Meritorious Mast and Defense Service Medal, despite never having gone to war. His reasons for leaving the service were about as unclear as they were for him joining in the first place, but he was given an honorable discharge in 1976. After the Marines, he enrolled full-time. Okay, I'm going to do that again. After the Marines, he enrolled as a full-time student at Quincy University in Quincy, Illinois. He continued to stick out from his peers because of the military mannerisms and the way he dressed. He was reportedly a loner while he was at Quincy University. It was later discovered that he embellished his military record on his application to Quincy.
Oh, did he now?
We'll come to find that he also excels at lying.
What a surprise.
Shocking. He claimed to have received the Brown Star and Purple Heart for a service.
Is there a Browns? I mean, that just sounds like an insult, right? Am I right?
I know. I feel like,
it's like you're the one.
Did I make an error when I was doing this,
or what?
To anybody in the military listening to this, when I just re-looked at writing that, I'm like, did I make an error? Because it feels like a grave error.
It does. It seems like an insult. Listen, you can have a Purple Heart, but you get the brown one. Ew.
Well, listen up, sir. You lied anyway, so Brown Star for you.
Yeah, he gets a Brown Star regardless, and we know that it's a shit stain and not anything else.
Yes. So, he lied about getting some medals. Obviously, he lied. And despite the deception to enroll in college, he was still an ideal student and had a GPA of 3.89.
Not shabby.
Which, mine was higher.
Oh, go girl. Of course it was. Look at you.
But he did double major in biology and chemistry.
I know, but you're
didn't
an
double major,
audiologist.
so.
I mean, come on.
It's just a casual doctorate. Big deal. And this is where he began to express an interest in attending medical school. His only real extracurricular activity, or hobby perhaps, was spending late nights in the science lab to conduct chemistry research and other experiments.
Okay, a little bit weird, though, right?
Well, he was a loner, right?
I mean, what college student wants to spend their evening in a Saturday evening in a lab unless they're making meth? Sorry. I'm sorry. I watched Breaking Bad. I'm just saying. Weird, right?
Hey, to any of our lab friends out there.
Oh, sorry, guys.
Listening to this.
Listen, if that's how you spend your Saturday night, please.
And then you ended up using it for good. We love ya.
Yeah, love ya. Admire
love
you.
ya. All of our pathologists out there.
Also get a hobby. Okay.
Okay. Anyway, so I'm gonna call the next thing that I share with you, nothing but red flag number 1.
Okay.
His senior thesis discussed the assassination of Georgy Markov. That meant nothing to me when I first read it, so I had to look it up.
Yeah.
But the story goes that Georgie was waiting at a bus stop to go to work and suddenly felt a sharp pain in his leg. He turned to see a man next to him fumbling with an umbrella. The man said, "Oh, sorry," and went on his way. The guy was nicknamed the Umbrella Man, and it was assumed that he simply brushed into him. But when he got to work, he started to become deathly ill and was rushed to the hospital.
Oh my gosh, that's so creepy.
He died a few days later, and the cause of death was determined to be a lethal dose of ricin?
Yeah, ricin. Oh my gosh.
Which had been injected in his leg.
Okay, can I just say, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, but when I was in kindergarten, I was on a school bus and somebody punctured my leg, the back of my calf. You know how you sit, like I was on the window seat and there was a kid behind me. I was like a kindergartner and this was like a 4th grader. And they poked my leg with their umbrella and lacerated it. Oh my God, I can't believe. So I remember, I didn't feel it because it must have been a really clean cut. And I remember the bus monitor coming down and there was a trail, like a little rivulet of blood going from basically my area down the rest of the bus. And she was like, "Where's this coming from?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, where's this coming from?" And nothing hurt until I figured out it was coming from my leg. So then,
it started to hurt.
I limped all the way home. But yeah, apparently these kids have been scratching my leg with this umbrella. Oh my God. What if it was
I'm glad it didn't contain a lethal dose of anything.
I am lucky to be alive. This was such a lesser issue than this poor man who lost his life. But the circumstances are uncannily similar. So shout out to Boston when the scary 4th graders on the buses there. Jeez.
And now officially this is where the coincidences will end.
Okay.
Similarities. I didn't know about the bus story. So they found the lethal dose, and coincidentally, these were precisely the chemicals that Swango had been experimenting with in the science lab.
Oh, coinky dink. Methinks not.
A little foreshadow action. So he graduated from Quincy University in 1979 with an award from the American Chemical Society for Academic Excellence. And quoting Jack Smith, the author of the book I read that I forgot to tell you about that I read. So I will post that in the show notes. But he quoted, "If only they knew that Michael Swango's excellence would be used one day for murder."
Oh, most foul.
Swango was then accepted into the Southern Illinois University School of Medicine that same year. He was again an ideal student and took a special interest in courses such as pharmacology, toxicology, and pathology. Really, any course that dealt with chemistry, drugs, disease, and lethal toxins was a big interest and a favorite of Swango. He was still set apart from his peers given the way he dressed and his habits, but now it was not just his mannerisms and other oddities that set him apart, it was his study habits. It was reported that he would begin to take a test and then make an excuse to go into the hallway to cram his notes before he would come back into the classroom to answer the questions.
What?
Well, he's too busy playing chemist in the lab at night to study, I guess.
Weird.
Despite his differences with his peers, he was making it through med school, and by his final year, he had chosen neurosurgery as a specialty. While in medical school, though, the faculty and his peers began to notice that more patients than usual seemed to pass away while Swango was administering the treatment.
Uh-oh.
Some of the other med students started calling him 00 Swango, in reference to the James Bond movies in which 00 agents were licensed to kill.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Yeah, yep. Swango was nearly dismissed from medical school in his last month when it was discovered that he had been fudging all of his history and physical reports during his OB/GYN rotation at the hospital. He was observed to go into a patient's room for less than 10 minutes and come back with full reports, which normally took someone about 30 to 45 minutes.
Oh my gosh. I'm so upset for these women.
I frickin' know it. But, after some investigation, it was proven that his H&P reports had been fabricated, but this wasn't grounds enough to have him expelled.
What? Why is that not grounds? He lied. He's saying he provided care that he didn't, and that's not enough grounds to have him expelled? That's crazy.
Well, they did hold a hearing to determine what to do with him. And there was just one voting member who thought they ought to give him a second chance. And
boy.
needing a unanimous vote to expel a student, he was able to proceed and finish medical school, graduating in 1983. So you're right, that is grounds enough to expel a student, but it has to be a unanimous vote.
And so because of this, I'm just forecasting future tragedies could have been avoided had they taken his failures seriously.
And we'll find that he's afforded maybe more than one second chance too many.
Oh, no. I don't know. I can't handle this. This makes me so mad.
So this second chance afforded his medical career to take that sinister turn that we're about to start unraveling. Despite all the red flags and nearly getting kicked out of medical school and having obviously poor letters of recommendation, he was accepted into the neurosurgery program at Ohio State University Medical Center.
Come on, Ohio State. Come on. We have friends there. They do better. What?
They've gotten better. They learned their lesson with Swango.
Okay.
He signed an agreement that would grant him residency in neurosurgery after a 12-month internship in general surgery that would begin on July 1st, 1983. Shortly after he arrived, many of his patients, became deathly ill out of nowhere, with some even dying. Nursing staff noted that there was an unusually high amount of code blues that were called, and it was when he was assigned to the patients. He was observed to be allegedly messing with people's IVs with unknown syringes. This next part is sick. There were instances where he would see someone getting CPR during a code blue and he would just casually walk away rather than trying to be the hero and save the day.
I mean, isn't he required to jump in and assist? I don't know how I get away with this. Okay.
So there was a story that I read and this nurse was like, "You have to come and help." And he was like, "That's disgusting." Like referencing doing CPR, like putting mouth to mouth resuscitation.
First of all, they have barriers. And second of all, how did you become a doctor with this lack of compassion for preserving human life? You're obviously, you're not meant to be here.
No, nope.
So
imposter. This obviously started gossip amongst hospital staff that perhaps due to either gross negligence or flat out incompetence, he had been adversely affecting patients. These suspicions increased when the head of nursing staff, Amy Moore, witnessed Swango refusing to give respiratory aid to a patient who was having obvious difficulty breathing.
What?
He insisted that the patient needed to have her heart monitored, despite the patient's heart being just fine. It was the breathing that was not fine. The nurse had to physically intervene because of his refusal to perform life-saving efforts.
What an asshat. I'm so sorry. I hate this guy. Oh my gosh. He needs to ride the toe of my boot. Like, this dude, I don't understand why he was allowed to continue after the first time that he neglected to perform life-saving measures, unless they have a do not resuscitate, like, what happened to the Hippocratic oath? Hippocratic oath. Like, seriously. He couldn't even pretend enough to, like, jump in there?
Nope, definitely not. So then comes our classic case of nursing staff reporting concerns to administrators, but, they were told that they were just being paranoid.
Mm-hmm.
The complaints like this started to pile up, and the hospital was forced to conduct an internal investigation.
As they should.
Unfortunately, though, they could not find any direct evidence of wrongdoing, so all the cursory investigation did was clear him from any wrongdoing.
I mean, did they look? Is the question. Or did they just say they looked?
It was just word of mouth. Yeah.
Nurses, this is a doctor. What do you know?
So this was their solution. They moved him to another wing at the hospital with hopes from administration that this might resolve the issues, thinking maybe it was just a matter of misunderstanding and personality conflicts with the staff.
Yeah, maybe he can kill a whole nother different population of patients. Great.
Yeah. So we already know that this was, of course, not the case. Wherever he was moved, patients would begin to mysteriously die.
Oh, God, it's so scary.
It was not only the patients that would become ill. Swango's coworkers would mysteriously fall ill as well. And through my research, I found that this was a way for him to not only practice his chemical concoctions on people, but also for revenge to those that told on him.
Oh.
Yeah.
Evil.
So an incident that was noted in the book that I read that, again, I forgot to tell you about. I'm so sorry. I'll link it in the show notes. But it highlighted Swango offering to buy everyone lunch, and he took individual orders and came back with Kentucky Fried Chicken. Who
doesn't love some finger-licking chicken?
I love Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Especially if someone else is buying.
Yeah, for real. Except, the only trouble was that his chicken was laced with poison.
Ooh, no thanks.
Shortly after eating, everyone became violently ill, throwing up and getting high fevers. What? Because of all of the anecdotal claims and rumors surrounding Swango, Ohio Medical Center decided, not to bring him back to finish his residency.
Thank you, Ohio Medical Center, but seriously? Like, how obvious is that? The charges should have been brought against him.
Well, this unfortunately did not stop Swango from getting his medical license, and he now had a license to practice medicine. He received his medical license in September 1984 and moved back to Quincy to find work. He, of course, lied to all of his family and friends about why he left all of the wonderful opportunities in Ohio, saying he simply didn't get along with the medical staff and he just chose not to return, when actually he wasn't allowed to return.
I would think so. I was like, did he walk to graduate next to all the people he poisoned? And how pissed were they to see that he was still getting a diploma?
Yeah.
Crazy.
And all of that aside, too, like, oh, man, you weren't even a good student. All of us studied our butts off and you cheated.
Yeah. You cheated and you tried to poison us all. And, okay. This is crazy.
So, in Quincy, he got a job as an EMT out of a local medical facility called Blessing Hospital. You know, and this was a pretty big demotion from being a medical doctor that he took work as an EMT.
Yeah.
So we're now in July of 1984, and we are back in Quincy, where Swango is working as an EMT with Adams County Ambulance Corporation. His coworkers soon took notice that he was a little too enthusiastic about death.
Huh?
They noted an unbridled enthusiasm that he exhibited when they happened upon a fatality.
Oh, gross. Really? He would get excited?
Yeah. It seemed as though the sight of a dead body was exhilarating for him, and he would often remark, quote, "Wasn't that great?" End quote, after deadly run-ins on the job.
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh.
He told his partner, Brent, this is chilling.
Oh, no.
So he said, "My ultimate fantasy ambulance call is when a busload of children are hitting head on with a tanker truck filled with gasoline and hitting it head on, and then it blows up." And then he describes seeing the scene as kids hanging over barbed wire fences with their charred bodies hanging out of the windows.
Okay. Hello. Someone needs to call behavioral health. This guy is disturbed. Who could even talk about that casually to a coworker?
I don't know.
That's so disturbing.
So Brent, his partner, was obviously very disturbed by the things he was saying. And he was like, listen, we're out here trying to save people. And he's describing scenes where there's no life left at all. Like, what the heck?
Oh, my God. He was
looking forward
to it. He was looking forward to it.
The paramedics had even seen that he was making scrapbooks that were filled with newspaper clippings, photos of natural disasters, crime scenes, traffic accidents, and various other forms of gory death.
He was getting off on it. What if? Oh, wow.
He would literally share this scrapbook with his coworkers, which obviously made them very uncomfortable. They chalked it up to him having a dark sense of humor, but his macabre behavior was just a little too much, and they were just outright creeped out by him.
As they should be. I mean, flags abound here. Flags abound. Yeah.
Red flags be flying this entire time.
I mean, wow.
So not only were their stomachs turning from uncomfortability, but they were also turning due to becoming violently ill.
Oh, no.
Peculiar illnesses, coupled with his strange obsession with death, left his colleagues suspicious that he may be messing with their food and drink.
His coworkers?
Yeah, and I was like, I feel like he kind of liked these ones. Like at the hospital, he was doing it to punish people that told on him, but
yeah.
But here I'm like, they were being nice to you, bro. What are you doing?
Full-on psychopathic sadist at this point.
Yeah. So there was one morning that Swango brought in donuts for his colleagues. After about 20 minutes, those that enjoyed a tasty treat found themselves violently ill, throwing up in the bathrooms.
Ugh.
They thought it was super strange and tried to eliminate what might have caused so many of them to fall ill so suddenly, and they deduced it must have been the donuts. But oddly, the donuts were nowhere to be found. The box had disappeared. The paramedics reached out to the shop where the donuts were purchased to see if anyone else had reported people falling ill. And they said, no, never heard of that happening to anyone else. Shortly thereafter, Swango and his partner Brent volunteered to work at a high school football game. I don't think I knew this. Maybe I knew this, but they're required to have an ambulance at high school football games.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Did you know that?
No.
After I read that, I was like, well, I guess I did see an ambulance there usually, but Anyway.
I mean, it makes sense. Head injuries.
Yeah, so they volunteered to go do that.
Okay.
I know. And Swango and Brent were there. And Swango says to Brent, I'm going to run to the concession stand. Can I get you anything? And Brent was like, sure, I'll take a pop. Thanks, bro. He did not say bro, probably, but
no.
he agreed he would take a pop. So by the third quarter of the game, Brent was violently ill again.
Uh-oh.
He thought that he must have the flu or something, like what could be going on. And all of these guys are like medically inclined, right? They're doing life-saving efforts, but they're all, why are we falling ill so suddenly? They couldn't figure out what's going on. So there was another instance back at the, what do they call it? The ambulance bay?
Yeah. Sure.
There was two guys that made themselves some iced tea. And then they got called on a call. So they couldn't enjoy their iced tea, went to go save some lives, came back, and one of them took a sip of their iced tea and was like, whoa, this was really sweet. So this guy that thought it's really sweet, he was diabetic. He never sweetened his iced tea. So he told his partner, hey, this is really sweet. Will you taste it? Sure enough, it was sweet. So then they run into another colleague who told them, hey, I just witnessed the oddest thing. Swango was just in here and left shortly after. I watched him pull out of here after you guys started pulling up. He whipped it around and took the alley out of here, almost like he didn't want anyone to know that he had been here. Wonder if he had something to do with the iced tea.
Yeah, think.
So this was a breaking point. His colleagues definitely suspected him of messing with their food and drink. They covered the iced tea and requested that it be tested. And sure enough, the tea was found to have arsenic.
Arsenic. Oh my gosh.
Yep. Those that had fallen violently ill in a sudden manner offered hair and nail samples to be tested, and they were also found to have traces of arsenic. In October, Swango was arrested by the Quincy Police Department after arsenic and other poisons were found in his home. The main drug he used on his colleagues was an ant poison called taro, and it contained arsenic. Wow. They found tons of the stuff in his home, as well as ants. What? They did find ants there. But after further investigation, they found that the species of ants that were in his home did not belong to the region.
What? He brought them to his home from somewhere else? Let me see if I can kill you.
Well, okay, so the ants were from Florida, where Swango had recently gone to visit his mom. And apparently he thought that bringing a ton of ants back from Florida would be enough to justify the amount of poison that he had. Okay. Yep. And so he could say he just had a little ant problem.
Oh, I have just a little Florida ant problem. Just brought a few. They were hitchhiking on my suitcase.
Hitchhiking all the way to Illinois. Destination Swango's apartment.
What a dumbass. Sorry.
I know. So on August 23rd, 1985, he was convicted of aggravated battery for poisoning his coworkers and was sentenced to 5 years in prison.
God, I wish it was more than that.
And we've always got an early release for good behavior. Yep. So he was released from prison in 1989 for only serving 2.5 years of his sentence. Upon release, he had a difficult time finding employment in a hospital. No shit.
Right.
He eventually took a job as a counselor at a career development center in Virginia. It wasn't long before he began messing with his colleagues again, and they would become ill suddenly. They became even more alarmed.
Amanda, did you say he had a job as a counselor?
I'm not sure what his qualifications for getting hired were.
I mean, counseling about what? How to be an asshat and fail at life? Okay. Right.
Maybe a little plug on ants. I don't know.
An ant champion. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah. So his colleagues would see him perusing his scrapbooks in periods of downtime. So obviously they're becoming a little concerned.
Every manly man has a scrapbook, am I right?
Yeah. And you love when a counselor just loves perusing death scrapbooks.
Oh my God, so creepy. It's like out of a movie.
Mm-hmm. So obviously there was a lot of pressure for him to leave the job, and he eventually parted ways with the Career Center in May of 1989. His colleagues at the Career Center informed local police about his strange activities and the unexplained illnesses. The investigation followed Swango back to Ohio, where Virginia police sought to collaborate with their counterparts in the state in order to find some reason to charge Swango. Digging into Swango's activity attracted attention from local news, and a story surfaced that he was under investigation once again. Nothing came from the investigation, but all of this prompted Swango to change his name. On January 18th, 1990, he had his name officially changed from Joseph Michael Swango to David Jackson Adams.
How original.
At this time, he also married his longtime girlfriend, Rita, on July 8th, 1989. Swango and Rita decided this was a time to reestablish himself and start a new life. Rita and Swango were only married for less than 2 years before they finally divorced.
Well, that didn't last a lifetime.
No, sure didn't. Throughout his marriage, he was working as a lab technician at a premier coal company in Virginia called Ada Coal Services. And by all accounts, he was an ideal employee. However, after his marriage crumbled, so did his behavior on the job.
Oh, was you sad? Was you naughty? You couldn't keep up the ruse?
Yeah, little buddy. Didn't have any counselor friends from your old job?
Didn't have anybody to poison? Oh, wait. Apparently he does. Carry on.
Oh, no. Yeah. Yeah, so his coworkers began to have the same telltale signs of poisoning. And after his divorce was finalized in May of 91, Swango went back to Ohio and applied for admission to the Ohio Valley Medical Center. He submitted a completely fraudulent application in which he claimed his license had been suspended due to felony battery conviction over a fistfight at a local bar.
Also,
we of course know this is not the case.
That's not something you should be proud of either, but he's like, it just goes to show how horrible the actual truth was, that a fistfight at a local fistfight at a local bar was like the better option. Like, let me
so much better.
This, I mean,
it's like a paper cut compared to what you did.
Do you want your physician to be someone who's fistfighting at a local bar? And that was his preferred option to like get in there. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely no mention of poisoning or patients and colleagues who had been left, dead or ill because of him. He had some big sob story of being at the wrong place at the wrong time, and he fell victim to a heavy-handed judge who just had it out for him.
Oh, he's a victim. I've never heard this before.
Classic.
Yeah.
I know. Very original Swango. So he had gone a little too far with his deception and even created false legal documents, such as fake prison discharge sheets and forged docketing statements. He used these documents to support his claims that he had been imprisoned over that minor fight rather than premeditated poisoning of his colleagues. He even went so far as to type up a letter from the governor of Virginia stating that the governor had moved to completely restore all of Swango's rights as a citizen. Dr. Jeffrey Schultz was the hospital director that couldn't wait to bring Swango on board to give the young man a second chance. However, these documents and other doubts began to weigh on him. He reached out to the police in Quincy, Illinois to find out the truth. Of course, he found out that, everything was all a lie. Dr. Schultz immediately suspended Swango's application process, and authorities in Illinois were alerted to the fact that Swango was forging documents, which is a serious criminal offense.
No kidding.
Prosecutors then began exploring the possibility of charging Swango with forgery, but by the time they could build a solid case, he had already moved on.
Uh-oh.
Chart notes. Welcome to the Chart Note segment where we learn about what's happening in medicine and healthcare. Okay, so I've recently been hearing a lot about using AI to help, write notes
Write our
at work.
chart
Have you
notes?
been hearing about this? yeah, that. So I first heard about this from Adam. He was saying that a local hospital was going to start trialing this, or they already were.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what that looks like is they use this AI platform, and the platform listens to the entire encounter and then helps summarize and come up with a chart note for you. And then you only have to look it over, make sure it's accurate. So I wanted to look a little more into this. So I found at the University of Pennsylvania that they did a study on this. So the study was on clinician experiences with ambient scribe technology to assist with documentation burden and efficiency. And this study was actually just published in the JAMA Network Open. You talked about JAMA in your last episode, and in my head I was like, doesn't everyone just call that JAMA? Is that just a me thing?
I mean, I want to call it JAMA, but I don't want to offend anyone, but that's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, I guess if it's offensive, sorry. But
no, I don't think it is.
I've always said JAMA.
JAMA.
So, okay, just a brief overview of the study. It explored how AI scribe technology could reduce the time doctors spend on documentation, thus improving their interactions with patients. The AI tool listens to doctor-patient conversations and accurately transcribes notes into electronic health records. The study involved 46 clinicians and showed a 20% reduction in time spent interacting with EHRs during and after patient visits, including a 30% reduction in, this is cute, pajama time.
I love that, because it's true.
I know.
we get
so they called
our reports.
Pajama time is known as work done after hours. I love that. I mean, I hate work after hours, but I love that they call it pajama time.
At least I know. We're in our jammies.
Yeah. Clinicians gained around 2 extra minutes of face-to-face time with patients per visit and 15 minutes of personal time each day. One doctor reported saving about 2 hours of documentation time each week.
I'd take it. Love that.
Yeah.
Love that for me.
Mm-hmm. These time savings allow doctors to focus more on patient care, which is critical for both the clinician-patient relationship and physician well-being.
Mm-hmm.
One doctor noted that the AI scribe drastically reduced their documentation burden and helped them engage with patients without distraction, which I feel like I could resonate with that, because when I was in clinic, compassion fatigue is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
When you're burned out, it drains every ounce in every corner of you.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're busy thinking, okay, how am I going to quantify this or qualify this in writing? And did I ask all the points that I'm required to ask? And how am I going to get this down, but still get this done? And yeah.
It's a lot. It is a lot. So at the end of the study, most clinicians rated the system as fairly easy to use, with 65% either recommending or passively recommending it. The study's co-authors emphasize that the technology is improving daily and is likely to transform how outpatient primary care providers operate. Penn Medicine's goal is to use tools like this to strengthen the clinician-patient relationship, reduce cognitive burdens, and restore valuable time for both providers and patients.
I love this because, I mean, they're already doing it with Copilot for Microsoft Teams meetings, where the minutes are just getting written. I mean, you can always go back and be like, oh, that wasn't quite right. But a lot of times it's scarily on point and better than someone who's trying to run a meeting and write notes at the same time. So I can imagine it's a similar thing with, I mean, we've had medical scribes, but still that's another person who has to be, educated in the medical field and sit there and take notes, and we have to pay that person. And that takes time from that allows the physician to have more time, but it's still another physical person that you have to employ who has to have a certain skill set. So if we're going to use AI, I mean, I say bring it. But then, part of me is like, yeah, they're going to bring it and they're going to go, not so that we can keep up with the status quo now. They're going to say, oh, well, now that you have that, you can do something in a quarter of the time. And it's like, oh, God, that's not true because we're already overextended. So
it's like we've relieved a bit of this burden. Now, how can we add some more?
Yeah.
That was kind of my concern with it. It sounds amazing to relieve some of that, right?
Yeah, if
I
it
would
was
have
actually
killed
going to
for
go
that.
back to the patient and equate to more time with the patient, I'm all for it. But if it's just another means for beans counters to say, well, bring in more, let's do more quantity over quality, then that's not buying
and that's what I was
anything.
going to say is like, I just got so burnt on sacrificing quality for quantity.
Yeah.
So as long as it doesn't turn into one of those, and maybe that just is dependent on where you're at.
I think it's inevitable in this current healthcare climate, but we're not here for that.
But anyway, that's another story for another time. But I would be curious to know if anybody's already using this. Yes. Do you like it? Do you hate it? What are your fears? I feel like AI is coming and going to be utilized more and more and more and more, whether we want it or not. So we better just lean into it.
I think one potential is, patient education, but as long as we're allowed to vet it first, because I've been playing around with ChatGPT and I'll put some things in there and I know what the answer is, and a lot of times I'll get something that's not the right answer. So it's like, it's only as good as...
It's like it's kind of at its Wikipedia stage. Like, how do we get it better?
Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely Wikipedia stage. So, yeah, I think it has potential as long as it's quality that's it's drawing on, not just anything. So I don't know what the answer is. But anyway, that's a bigger thing. But I'm so...
Well, and also they talked about, so we had some training one time and now we're rambling, but I'll make this as short as possible. But we had this thing on AI and it was like, you can't put students' personal information or so let's say patients' personal information in there, etc. Because once it's out in AI, it's kind of like out in the world.
Yeah.
So that was another thing is like, if this AI tool or scribe or whatever is literally a part of your appointment.
Yeah.
Is that kind of going to be lost in cyberspace, like your personal information?
Yeah. Because it's drawing on all the data that it's given and then doesn't understand whether the data is, if it's given data,
private
then
or not.
It's good to go. Yeah. No, I agree.
So
that's part of it.
That's a little scary.
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay, back to the story.
Back to the story.
All right, folks. We are now at the University of South Dakota, where with the same forged documents, Swango had applied and been accepted.
Oh, boy.
This is also where he met nurse Kristen Kinney. Kristen was engaged at the time to a local doctor, but was immediately enamored by the charisma of Swango and all of the attention he was showing her. Feeling like Swango had more to offer, she broke off her engagement.
Oh, you fickle child.
Their relationship progressed very quickly, and Kristen's parents were eager to meet the man that Kristen was so impressed with. For the most part, they felt the same. However, they did notice some red flags, such as the fact that there were about 3 years of Swango's life that he just couldn't account for. From about 1984 to 1987, he drew a complete blank about his life.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
that's not
could
normal.
Those be the years that he was incarcerated for poisoning his coworkers?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, what? Where are you going with that? Okay.
So another red flag to her family was the fact that he supplied little to no information about his own parents and family. He was the most forthcoming about his father's military career and background, which is odd because, as we know, he did not have a relationship with his father. He said next to nothing about his mother, though he was actually the closest with her. He simply said that she was living in a nursing home in Missouri, which actually was true. So shortly after he went to prison, she developed an acute case of Alzheimer's and was placed in an assisted living center.
Aww.
Despite all of the red flags flying everywhere all the time, Kristen could see no wrong, and the couple was engaged to be married in May of 1992. Kristen's mother was quoted to say, "This is either the most wonderful thing in the world for Kristen or he's some kind of nut."
That's such a mom thing to say.
No.
Oh, bless. Okay. Come on.
Yeah. So the year 1992 seemed to be a comeback year for Swango. He was happily engaged and has a residency at the University of South Dakota. Him and Kristen moved to Sioux Falls and both worked at Royal C. Johnson Veterans Memorial Hospital. Swango seemed to have turned a page. There were no mysterious illnesses, and he was reportedly doing well as a doctor.
Oh, he's being good and not poisoning people? Oh, bless.
Oh my God, you're doing your job?
He must have turned a leaf.
Oh, what a good boy. He wasn't fabricating any H&P charts and doing everything by the books. By all accounts, he was a competent and hardworking doctor with no troubled history at all. Author Jack Smith, in that book that I forgot to tell you about, wrote that Swango may have even convinced himself of this false narrative because he actually sent in an application to the American Medical Association.
Cheeky.
Idiot. After applying, he realized that this might raise old red flags, and he tried to quickly withdraw his application. However, it was too late.
Ooh.
Not only did the AMA reject him, they immediately contacted the administration at the hospital. The hospital was extremely concerned and determined that Swango would have to go immediately. They wanted to keep their findings under wraps, as hospitals often do, and they found out this information right before Thanksgiving and decided to wait until the holiday to let him know of his fate.
Ooh.
Right as they were trying to quietly sweep their findings under the rug, the Discovery Channel aired a documentary about Swango's case on their true crime series, Justice Files.
Oh, boy. Way to out yourself without realizing.
I know. Several doctors, nurses, and other members of the hospital's medical staff saw this episode and recognized Dr. Swango. The airing of the episode, of course, started the old gossip mill at every nurse's station, with everyone spilling the beans on what had aired regarding Dr. Swango. Dr. Anthony Salem, the director of the hospital's medical residency program, quickly canceled Swango's access to the pharmacy and terminated him as a resident. Dr. Salem contacted Swango and told him he did not need to come to his next shift, but rather he should come and meet with him.
Ouch.
The next day, Swango showed up as scheduled, but with Kristen, which I thought was weird. But he was just acting like he had no idea what all the fuss was about. He said, "I had an ant problem I was trying to deal with."
He's still going with the ants? Oh, boy.
Yeah. Dr. Salem then played a recording of the episode for him, but he continued to act indignant and incredulous about the whole ordeal. He stuck with his story that he was that his conviction for poisoning his colleagues had been a great miscarriage of justice, which was completely railroaded by that biased judge and prosecution.
Oh, he's such a victim.
Poor boy. This was pretty eye-opening for Kristen. She had absolutely no idea of his dark past. The media was, of course, all over the story and following Swango and Kristen around. She was very torn because on one hand, she wanted to support her partner, but on the other hand, she didn't feel like she could trust him. Eventually, she met up with an old colleague to share her frustrations and everything that had been going on. And she told her friend, "I need out," and asked if she could live with her and her husband for a while. She also disclosed that Swango had been discussing the idea of moving overseas so that he could work somewhere far away from the charges that were haunting him. She began to self-medicate with Prozac and drink heavily, but she also began to grow suspicious that Swango had been slipping something into her drinks.
Oh, no.
She started to have strange headaches and migraines that came out of nowhere. She feared she was having the same symptoms that Swango's previous victims had. Likely due to a combination of everything going on and Kristen, just dealing with this the best she could. She felt like she was losing her mind.
As you would, yeah.
Yeah. And on a very cold night in late October of 93, she was found by police walking down a very busy street in Sioux Falls without any clothes on.
Oh, no.
This earned her a trip to the psychiatric ward where she was held for 4 days before she was deemed stable enough to be released. She stayed with Swango for a few weeks following discharge before she decided to pack up her things and head back to her parents in Virginia. Kristen's parents were so relieved that she came back and hoped that this would be the end of the relationship. Her headaches also seemed to disappear once she was no longer in Swango's presence.
Crazy.
Shocking. But less than 2 weeks later, on April 23rd of 93, Swango and Kristen arrived at her parents' house arm in arm.
Oh.
He came to Virginia to share the great news with Kristen that he received a residency, this time for a psychiatric position at the State University of New York at Stony Brook on Long Island.
Stony Brook on Long Island. I went to Stony Brook High School. I can't believe this is coming up. Yeah. But like this guy's going into psychiatry. Like, really?
No bueno.
No.
No. Swango was hopeful that this location was so far removed from Sioux Falls that his past would not come back to haunt him.
How'd that work out for him?
Well, yeah. So Dr. Alan Miller was the director of the resident psychiatry program, and he had an in-person interview with Swango and other faculty members who were just all so impressed by him. Swango did reveal to them at the interview that he had served time in jail and that he just wanted to be forthcoming, and he wanted them to know that.
Oh, sure. Yeah, only because he got found out. But yeah, okay.
He used the same old lies that he used in South Dakota, that he had been incarcerated not for poisoning, but for a bar brawl. He used the same forged legal documents to bolster the claims. And, of course, they did a cursory check of his references, but superficial cross-checks between institutions failed to raise any red flags. And without further ado, Swango was accepted into the program on June 1st, 1993.
What? Nuh-uh. Really?
And at this point, it's been nearly a decade since he's graduated medical school, and he's still not completed a residency.
Can we say Dr. Failure? Like, at what point do we say, dude, you're not cut out for this?
Yeah, like, why? Another red flag on application. Why are you not done with this yet?
Right?
So I'm sure you could guess how his psychiatry residency was going. Patients began dying under mysterious circumstances.
His psychiatry patients were dying?
Yeah, I know. So, yeah. The patients would present, so he's at a VA hospital, and the patients would present to the clinic with symptoms similar to a severe cold or pneumonia and end up being hospitalized for conditions that were completely unrelated to why they went there in the first place.
Oh, God, it's so scary.
So I don't know, as part of his rotation, it was a little unclear, but I presume, like, maybe if you're inpatient at the hospital, they have, like, psychiatry come around just to, like, check on you.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, why are you inpatient at all?
Yeah. But if he's going into psychiatry, like, that was his focus. How are you killing psychiatric patients? Like, I understand if someone comes in with a disease or, like, a cardiac issue and he's not taking good care of them, but these people are coming in with mental health issues, not that they're any less than physical, physiological ailments of the heart and whatever. But, like, how are these people dying?
Well, just his same old antics that I don't know that we've really got much into yet, but there were patient family interviews, and the patients would tell their family members that there was a doctor that would visit them late every night and tell them, "You're next."
What? Like, threaten
Families
them?
later shared, I'm just, like, picturing him, like, pointing and being like, "You're next."
Oh my God, that's so scary. And
families
awful.
later shared in interviews that sadly they thought that their family member was just hallucinating because they were sick. But it turned out to be so much more than that.
I want to strangle this guy.
He was also said to be badgering patient spouses to sign do not resuscitate directives.
Oh God, he's evil.
So 2 weeks after he began at Stony Brook, he placed a call to Kristen back in Virginia. It's not entirely clear what went on during the conversation, but Kristen's next door neighbor heard a lot of hysterical crying and shouting through the walls of the apartment. Kristen called her mom and was noted to seem strangely devoid of emotion. Kristen calmed her by telling her, "Mom, I'm fine. I love you." But Kristen's mom had a gut feeling that something was wrong and wanted to check on her. And a little plug to my mom. My mom calls this the mom worry button.
Oh, yeah.
And she said it never goes away.
Right? Yep.
So Swango had even called Kristen's mom saying, you should go check on her. She's pretty upset. Despite her gut feeling and growing concerns, her husband told her she's 27. Give her some space. And this is like no fault to him saying this, right?
No, but a mom knows.
But at the advice of her husband, she decided to give Kristen space. The next night, they received a phone call from police requesting they come down to the station for an incident involving their daughter.
Everyone's worst nightmare.
They arrived at the station and learned that Kristen had been found dead, slumped against a tree.
Oh.
She had apparently taken her own life.
No.
There was a note addressed to her parents that was extremely odd, and it read, "I love you both so much. I just didn't want to be here anymore. Found day to day living a constant struggle with my thoughts. I'd say I'm sorry, but I'm not. I feel that sense of peace of mind that I've been looking for. It's nice. I'll be seeing you."
Oh, come on. What a dumbass note written by somebody else. Nobody would say that. And as if she was writing from beyond the grave.
I'll be seeing you.
Someone who's about to take their own life doesn't write like that.
No.
What an ass.
No. And just ending it, "I'll be seeing you," when she just had called her mom. No.
Yeah, no. Not at all.
Yeah, her parents never believed she would or could commit suicide and couldn't help but wonder if it was the constant psychological pushing and shoving from Swango that driven her there. An autopsy, though, revealed that she had been poisoned with lethal doses of cyanide.
Oh.
And again, my research showed that this was 2 weeks after he had been in New York, so I don't know if it's like how he finally got it to be a lethal dose when he wasn't there. I don't know. But clearly he was the culprit of having that in her system.
Right. I mean, nobody does that to themselves. How's she going to get it?
Yeah.
As well. I don't know.
So this is where things take a little bit of a turn again for Swango. So through the grieving of Kristen's mother, she found correspondence with one of Kristen's former coworkers at the hospital in South Dakota. And it was because of their exchanges that the folks in South Dakota were tipped off that Swango's latest residency was in New York.
New York.
She was horrified to learn that someone with Swango's history was allowed to continue practicing medicine. The news of his residency eventually reached the dean of the University of South Dakota Medical Center, and he alerted the dean of Stony Brook, Jordan Cohen. After all of the disturbing details were shared with Cohen, he immediately notified the department chair, who contacted Dr. Miller, and then Dr. Miller arranged an immediate meeting with Swango to question him about the allegations. Dr. Miller suspended Swango's residency, and Jordan Cohen sent warning letters to every single medical school in the nation, detailing Swango's disturbing background.
Finally.
And advised them not to consider his applications.
Hello. Should have been done a long time ago.
Yes. So he was eventually blacklisted at every hospital in the United States. Thank God.
Yay.
Swango showed back up at Miller's office the next day, begging and pleading for him to be lenient and not suspend his residency. Wah, wah, wah.
Wah, wah, wah.
Miller knew he couldn't let him stay at Stony Brook, but he did offer him some advice, saying, "Go somewhere that really needs a doctor, somewhere that's desperate."
What? Somewhere that
Miller
needs a
suggested
Swango
make a trip overseas to some impoverished region of the developing world where competent doctors were scarce resources.
Oh my God, he did not.
With being blacklisted at every hospital in the United States, he basically had no choice but to leave the country if he ever wanted to practice medicine again. Or should I say, continue his killing spree.
You should say.
Yeah. This is the point where the FBI enters the story. They got involved due to his falsifying documents and using fraudulent credentials to enter a VA hospital. But of course, Swango was nowhere to be found in New York.
Ugh.
And this is where I leave you, listeners, to end part 1. That's right. This is a two-parter.
What? Amanda? You cow. You're going to drop us here?
I was going to disclose at the beginning that it was going to be a two-parter, but I decided to wait for the end.
They nabbed him and put him away to rot in solitary confinement forever and ever. Amen. And no, this guy's about to get a new lease on life. Why the hell wasn't he? Okay. I have so many questions. And damn you for springing this on us as a two-parter. I can't wait to hear the rest of it.
I know. Honestly, it probably could have been like a 4 or 5-parter. There's just so much to this story. I will have everything in the show notes, but I highly encourage people to, not before I finish part 2, but to go look it up and like do a deeper dive because it's just crazy.
It's a nightmare.
And there's no way I could have done this in one part.
I don't understand how he was allowed to get even to this point, let alone it seems like
how many second chances?
Right? Second, third, fourth, way too many. Okay, well, I'm not gonna wallow in this too much because I'm hoping that next week we're gonna have some restitution, some feeling of like, I swear, I hope this guy gets nabbed and suffers. So, if that doesn't happen, we're gonna hear some more from me. But at this point, I'm gonna bite my tongue. I can't wait for part 2, and I'm going to bring up our brand new medical mishaps. Medical mishaps.
Ooh, that happened unplanned. I loved it.
For our last section, to just lighten the mood because, God, that was good. But, oh, man, am I mad. Okay, anyway. So our first medical mishaps message was an email from our friend who thought of the segment to begin with, Richard Marsh from the UK. Yay, Richard.
Yay, thanks, Richard. Love the idea.
He writes, "Hi, Dr. Jenna and Dr. Amanda. Oh, loving the podcast. However, that 3rd episode featured that chap. I mean, I probably should have done this in a British accent.
Please do.
That 3rd episode featuring that chap operating or false diagnosing just to make money whilst giving false hope and life-charging disability to so many. I mean, what a guy. What a cad. I mean, could you be more British, Richard?
I'm obsessed.
Could you be more British? He goes, I think everyone would have been so saddened and gone blimey listening to that one. Which got me thinking, maybe your podcast listening moment of fun would be an uplifting end to the show, featuring funny medical mishaps supplied by us listeners. So let's get the ball rolling with this one, which I've called Nasal Invasion.
Richard, I'm obsessed with you.
He's going to hate me for this accent because it's definitely not Cornwall, but it's all I can do.
It sounds great to me.
It's all I can do, baby. Okay, so he goes on to say, who doesn't like to suck or crew on a mint? Okay, I don't know what crewing on a mint is. Is that a thing? Is that what you English people do? I need to ask my mother. I know you can suck on a mint, but how do you crew on it? I don't know. Maybe he'll tell us. Anyway, he says, for me, one of my favorite, with an O-U-R-I-T, bless, and still is even after this medical mishap, is the good old polo. A polo is a round mini mint. It's about 2 centimeters. I mean, we're going to just have to wing it for those of us in the non-metric system. In diameter with a hole in the middle. The art of successfully enjoying a mini is to suck on it until the last possible moment before it breaks and dissolves. If I was in my late teens, whilst attempting this challenge, it all went a bit wrong, and I ended up in the ER. I think he was saying he was in his late teens. I think that's what that meant. And he ended up in the emergency room. Oh, no. Was I choking on it? Was I asphyxiating myself? No. I had, in fact, managed to get a piece of this mint lodged into my left nasal cavity. What? How the hell did you manage that? It all came about as during enjoying the mint, I started to sneeze, and whilst having a loud sneeze, I bit down on the mint, causing it to break up, or at the same time, having a sharp intake of breath, causing a bit of the mint to go towards the back of my throat. And then as I sneezed against, it went up and into my left nasal cavity, where it became well and truly stuck. No amount of aggressive blowing, snorting, blocking the right sides of my nose, etc., would budge the pesky polo. Only one thing for it. Seek professional assistance, if you will. So, turns out it was quite a straightforward procedure if you know what you're doing. Have, a minor set of tweezers to extend up your nose in a steady hand. Bit like playing a game of Operation. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Apart from my nose was the buzzer in that situation. Many thanks to the nurses and doctors for keeping a straight face whilst undertaking the procedure. I'm sure they've seen and dealt with worse or more interesting objects than a patient's nose. Did it hurt? Well, I wouldn't add it to your bucket list. And but you do have a minty fresh flavour in your nose for a while. There you go. Ta. And that was from Richard. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Richard.
So
that was amazing.
Slaughtering your accent. I can only do posh, Richard. Only posh. Not that you're not posh, darling. Thank you for sending that in. And we have had several others written into us since then. Yes, medical mishap.
I didn't even know.
Yes.
I'm so excited.
Yes, so please, this is what makes this fun and engaging. We want to hear from you. So email us your medical mishaps at Doctoring the Truth. It's just all together, Doctoring the Truth at buzzsprout.com. Don't miss a beat. Subscribe or follow Doctoring the Truth wherever you enjoy your podcasts for stories that shock, intrigue, and educate. Trust, after all, is a delicate thing. You can support the show now. This is new by clicking on a subscriber link when you look at your podcast episode. There's a subscriber link, and you can support us for as low as $3 a month. And we'll give you a shout out on the show, and we're always looking for ways to bring you more rewards in the future. This might include exclusive content, early access to episodes, fun merch, and more. More. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Doctoring the Truth and Facebook at Doctoring the Truth. Right, Amanda? I paused on that one.
If you ever wonder what it's called, it's just Doctoring the Truth at whatever platform you're on.
There we go. But also, please, we get credit for downloads. So download, rate, and review so we can be sure to bring you excellent content each week. And until then, stay safe and stay suspicious. Bye.
Bye. See you next week, friends.
I can't stop. Where? Why am I not able to stop? I'm still going. Okay.